Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about 5 travel experiences I regret. And you might be thinking, why would you regret travel experiences? And just to be clear, I'm not saying I regret travel. I'm saying that there are a few things that I regret doing now that I'm a bit wiser, a bit older, and have done a bit more education on some matters. So mainly what I'm going to be talking about today, the 5 experiences that I regret, they all kind of relate to sustainable travel and being a responsible tourist or a responsible traveller. And in particular, these experiences all happen to relate to animal tourism and animal cruelty. There are a couple of things that I do regret doing in the past while travelling, and mainly it's because that I've come to realise, either through education or just finding out things and my eyes being open to things, that I feel like I've done the wrong thing in the past. And not even as a vegan, now that I'm vegan, it's not even that, it's just being a responsible traveller, and I think any traveller could relate to this. Just so you know, I'm not saying that these experiences weren't fun. For most of them, I did have a good time and it was an enjoyable experience on my end, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. So the first thing that I regret is a really big one, and that is elephant riding in Laos. With elephant riding, I kind of knew a little bit about why you probably shouldn't when I went, but everyone was talking about how the place we were going to was it was a sanctuary, and they took in these elephants that were, had bad lives, and they helped the animals, and it was really great for them, and it was all happy-go-lucky. And while I was there, I did not see any evidence of like physical harm. The elephants weren't chained, they weren't being led around, like they just walked wherever they wanted to, and the guides kind of just walked alongside them to make sure it didn't we didn't get into trouble. But so while I didn't see any evidence of actual harm to the elephants, that doesn't make it okay. That's not what elephants are there for. They're not for our use. No animals are on this earth for our personal use. And particularly with elephant riding, young baby elephants, they don't let humans ride them. In order for elephants to become tamed, their spirit has to be broken down, and it's generally through animal cruelty and torture, and it's not a nice process. And then even to keep them in line on some elephant riding expeditions, I know that they're hit with sticks or that kind of thing. And I know when I went to India, and I saw people riding elephants, this is, it was a couple of years down the track from my own experience, and I was looking at the people riding it going, oh my god, like, why are you doing this? And I thought, well, hang on, that was me a couple of years ago. I didn't know, it hadn't clicked with me. So yeah, that's the first thing that I regret and I will never do again. The second one is also from my Southeast Asia trip back when I was 22 with both of these 2 experiences. And this was going to visit tigers in captivity, and it wasn't at the terrible tiger temple that's now been shut down, but it was in another place in Chiang Mai. I think it was Tiger Kingdom. And while the same can be said about the elephants, I didn't see any wrongdoing. I didn't see any tigers get hurt or hit or yelled at, or didn't see any tigers that were drugged, or that I thought they were not drugged, but they probably were. Like, I don't know why tigers would just lay there senile, unless they had been either drugged or, tamed using torture. And another thing about those tiger the places where you can visit tigers is that a lot of the time it says the money is that you spend there to get your photos taken with tigers or whatever. They say that money often goes to conservation efforts, and that's not always true. A lot of the times it's been found that it's not true at all. It's a business. and it's using these tigers for a business profit. And these tigers, like, in captivity, that's not where they're meant to be. It's not a happy life for them. I remember we saw through a window of a building, we saw all the baby cubs, and I didn't even think about it then. It was only when a couple of years later, doing research about it, that I found out that cubs are not meant to really be away from their mother. I think it's either, I can't remember whether it's 2 months or 2 years, but it's one of those two figures. The baby cubs stay with the mother until then. In places like this, the baby cubs are taken from their mothers at 2 weeks, so they can go into a separate area of the park and can be handed out to tourists on the day. They can go in and feed them and stuff. So these baby cubs are also taken from their mothers, who are being used for tourist profit, and then they're put in another area where they also go by another use to do the same thing. And it's all pretty horrible. The third travel experience I regret, and I'm sure you guys will know what this one is, because in my blog and vlog post about this, which was only in 2015, I expressed how upset I was over the situation, and it was camel riding in India. And as you might know if you've seen that video, halfway through I started asking if I could get off and walk, because I didn't want to do it anymore, and they wouldn't let me for ages. I think they were kind of blaming language difficulties, but when I really started demanding that they let me down right now, they let me down, and I walked through the sand dunes. And while where we were going, which was for this beautiful dinner out in the desert, that was the only way to get there, apparently. And so I was worried about the camel riding beforehand, and I was assured that it was all above board and the animals were treated great and all of that, and that was a good thing for these young men who earned their living, young boys really, they were young teenage boys, earning their living by being the camel guides. And so I was reassured because I was so unsure about getting on the camels in the first place. I was reassured that it was all going to be okay. And there was one particular guide that was being really awful to the camels. He kicked my camel in its stomach and hit other camels with sticks and a metal pipe, and it just got to the point where I was screaming at him, and I ended up getting down. And I wish that if it was the only way to get to that dinner, maybe I should have, really stuck to my guns and be that weird girl who demanded to just walk alongside the rest of the group instead of getting on the camel in the first place, because it wasn't a fun time. And I regret it, thinking that it was okay because people reassured me it was, even though my gut feeling was not to do it. So I think that was a lesson for me to be stronger and stick to my own will and my own beliefs, and if something doesn't feel right to me, not to do it. And in the end, I am very glad that I got off, and at least for half of it I walked. So I'm glad that I at least took a stand, even though it was halfway through. Fourth experience that I regret. Taking photos with llamas for money in Peru. We were in, I think, Colca Canyon, or a small village there somewhere, and so it wasn't a big tourist hotspot, so it was obviously not something that happened all the time. But this woman came up and she had a llama on a leash, and she's like, you can take photos with him. And we were all assured that it was all good and all that, and I'm like, oh yeah, why not, like it seems happy enough. And I took photos with it, and I even said thank you to the llama to try and be nice to it and everything. And but really it was a llama on a leash, and I took photos with it. So once again, it may not be that bad in this big scheme of things, but it's still using animals to our benefit. The fifth experience that I regret is a horse carriage ride in Mexico. Now this happened in Merida, and myself and a couple of the other people on my tour were a bit worried about doing it. We weren't exactly comfortable with it with the idea, but we were told it was our only way to the restaurant where we were going for dinner. So we got on and it was okay, nothing like bad happened, but we just happened to notice that the horses were quite thin, like their bones were showing, they were obviously malnourished, and they didn't seem that happy about their job. And can you blame them? Like, they're pulling this cart of people all day, every day. That's not what they're made for. And yeah, I just felt really bad about that one. And once again, I just accepted a situation because I thought I had to. And if I was stronger and more confident in myself and standing up for my beliefs, maybe I wouldn't have. And yeah, I think all of these things are lessons that I can take on in the future and maybe might help you too. Is there anything that you guys have ever done while traveling that you regret later? And I don't want to hear any bedroom stories because I'm sure we all have those that we do regret. Also, I just want to add, all of these things that I'm mentioning, they are definitely not a reflection on the tour companies that I may have been traveling with at that time. No way at all. They had nothing to do with any of the animal cruelty that I may be describing. They had nothing to do with that, and they all did their very best to ensure that every experience we had while traveling with them was 100% safe and ethical. So these are not reflections on any tour companies. They are individual experiences that happened. A lot of them weren't to do with the tour company that I may have been traveling with at that time. So please do not take this as a reflection on any tour companies that I've travelled with in previous years, because I love all of them and I'll probably travel with them again. So yeah, let me know if you have any travel experiences like this that you might have done in the past and feel the same way about. I'm sure we all do. It's a hard thing trying to maintain a standard of responsible travel and sustainable travel when you're out in the world, but it's important. And while I may not have been the most perfect, sustainable and responsible traveller in the past, I'm definitely learning. It's all a learning process, and there shouldn't be any guilt or blame when someone does something like this, because they may not know. Like, they may simply not know. And they may come to know in the future, as I have, and as I'm sure many of you have. So let's just all be understanding and loving travellers, and you know, just you can try and help people, but don't blame. Don't put blame on them. Just help them understand a little in a kind and caring manner. And just have a chat and be like, oh, did you know, like, this is a side effect of this? Like, yeah. And do what you can to be a more responsible traveller in the future. And look into sustainable travel if you haven't heard of it. And I hope this video has helped some of you. Click subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And give me a thumbs up if you liked this video and want to hear more about sustainable and responsible travel. Alright, thanks guys. Bye. Hello kitty. Oh, this is Dusty. Guess how old he is? He's 16. Yeah, 16. He's my baby boy.